garish guy, old stories hit high, tells of struggle and strife. Keep your head in the fight, broken bones in the street. Ain't no place for the weak, from the land of the brave, where the words cut deep. Coming next on the air now, feel the despair. Generation X, shout out, shattered somewhere. Rising up from the dark with a fire and spark. Rage and passion combined to leave a lasting mark. Coming next, shouting loud, voices from the crowd. Through the mist of...
Welcome to Common X. Today's episode is a little different. When Americans hear the name Vladimir Putin, it's usually reduced to headlines, sound bites, or caricatures. Strongman, villain, chess master, dictator. Depending on the day, he's either 10 feet tall or on the verge of collapse. What's often missing is context. Who he actually is, where he came from, how he thinks, and why he behaves the way he does on the world stage. Our goal today isn't to defend or attack anyone. It's to understand, because understanding power is different than agreeing with it. Issac brings a rare perspective. We saw him on episode 10. Not from cable news, but from direct experience. Welcome to the show, Issac.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming back on.
It's my pleasure.
So
I
Isaac,
guess.
Who is Vladimir Putin?
Well, that's an excellent question. And I don't know that you can define Putin by anything that he says, but you certainly can by all the things that he does. To kind of give some context, contextually in my life, who's Vladimir Putin to me? My first job out of high school, he was the picture on the dartboard when you went to work. He was the head of the KGB back then. He might have been number 2, but he was definitely way up there. And it was like, hey, if you get caught doing what we do, this is the guy that's going to be coming into the room on the worst day of your life. This is who's going to sweat you. He was, on one hand, a known quantity that very quickly became kind of a mythical figure. Your intro is awesome because he's all of the things that you said right there. You just need to put the word "the" in front of it. He's the chess master. He's the dictator. This guy has built up the image of all of those things. And some days collapse is what's convenient for him. What I can tell you is over 30 years now, I've been watching this person, and he has variously disappeared and reappeared. He's been president. He's been prime minister. He's been whatever he needs to be to coax people into the idea that he's really about democratic elections. And he's really about peace in our time. And he's about developing the country until he isn't. He's all of those things until he isn't, until it's now time for him to be something else. What I can also tell you about Vladimir Putin is anything that he says out loud, the opposite is probably true. So 2 weeks ago, when he went on and on and on about, we want peace and we want this to work out, and da-da-da-da. Last night, he popped a couple of missiles off in Ukraine and then said, well, that was actually just some munitions exploding in their factory. The guy is the ultimate false flag. A couple, 3-4 days ago, the Ukrainians launched 90 drones at his presidential palace. If the Ukrainians could do that, they'd be on TV bragging about it 24 hours a day on every cable news channel known to man. And I wouldn't blame them. And if you look at Zelensky, that's kind of his jam. Look what we can do. Look how awesome we are. If they could do that, they'd never shut up about it. What I can say about that is that's very, very Vladimir Putin. I'm gonna do some stuff and then lie about the reason that it happened. The people inside Russia are only getting one message, which is we didn't really have a choice. We had to invade Ukraine. Look at the horrible stuff they're doing to us. Oh my God, they tried to kill our illustrious president. He knows how to rally the Russian people. He has set this thing up right now to be a situation where you have what happened last night with Venezuela. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the program here. But he sets these things up and waits for you to sort of step into it and then go, woe is me. I can't believe what you're doing over there. Why would you do that? It's a dream come true. I mean, this is everything basically working according to his plans. When you say chess master, yes, absolutely. Before I jump too much into the whole Ukraine-Russia thing, and we're going to talk about that quite a bit because it illuminates a lot of who Vladimir Putin is. We'll talk about the size of the conflicts that are going on right now. And certainly Russia and Ukraine is the largest current conflict that's happening. But there's lots and lots of conflicts around the world.
Right, and there's a lot of proxy wars going on all over.
A ton of proxy wars and a ton of actual, just like we've had a beef for centuries. Let's get it on. Israel and pretty much anybody that isn't Israel in the Middle East that was fighting proxy wars against them finally got pissed off 2 years ago after we can agree was serious aggression and went to town. Jared's known me a long time. I've been saying this. Here's some people you don't want to piss off. Israel. They're ready. They've made sure every man, woman, and child in the freaking country knows how to use a Galil assault rifle. That's not some people or most people. That's everybody over the age of 14 knows how to pick up an assault rifle and pop you at 300 to 500 yards. That's the nation of Israel. Nobody else in the world did that since the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union were the last people to do that. Even Russia can't pull that off. Even their proxy nations that they work with or that were former Soviet republics can't pull that off. But when you're surrounded and it's enemies on all sides of the ocean on the other, that's your state of mind. So unfortunately, what I see is that's kind of spreading all over the place. These little regional conflicts will eventually become theater level conflicts. And once you have multiple theaters going, well, we call that a world war. And as I was saying to Jared recently, they didn't call them world wars when they happened. It was the war of foreign aggression. It was the war, the end all wars. It was the war in Europe. When it's happening, it's always called something else. But I'm having a tough time looking at the landscape right now and calling it anything but what it is. It's World War III. To speak specifically to the Ukraine situation, he's been testing the water for a while, since Crimea. And if you can go in and you can capture somebody's territory and the world doesn't really make a fuss about it, it's kind of ripe. The only thing that really slowed him down was he didn't see Trump coming. I mean, trust me, if there was somebody that wanted Trump elected, it wasn't Vladimir Putin. Putin definitely wanted Clinton because the Clintons were a known quantity and he could do what he wanted to. And with enough money and enough bribery and enough of all that crap that politicians love, they'd have let him just take as much territory as he wanted back. They'd have let him put the band back together and rebuild the Soviet Union. Because we don't really have a dog in that fight. That's a foreign problem. That's an overseas problem. And that was pretty much the Clintons' attitude about foreign politics. We're going to fix what's wrong at home. We're going to focus on what's wrong at home. That was their deal. We're going to balance Bill Clinton balanced the budget. Anybody that forgets that sucks. I don't like the guy, but he balanced the budget. And that's a big freaking deal. We can all agree. We could use more of that today.
Yeah, man. A lot of people still rave about his work on the economy for sure. So where did Vladimir Putin come from? Because like many Americans, I don't have any idea like who this guy is.
And I'm sure there's an official bio on this guy, but like everything else about him, it's pure bullshit. It's his own Wikipedia page, edited by him. He's super awesome, but basically he was born a hardline Soviet. All he has done, everything he's ever done was to put the band back together. You got to remember, like there was a Cold War and it went on for almost 50 years, like 47 years. We had the idea that if a Russian plane got too close, we might have to shoot it down. And the only thing that kept us from doing that to each other was the knowledge that it could conflagrate into a full-blown nuclear engagement and nobody can win. I blow up all your stuff over there, and even if you don't get one missile over here, that dust is coming this way eventually, and I'm going to suffer the same fate as you are. Mutually assured destruction was the name of the game.
And during that Cold War, it was the fear of communism spreading. So, like, it was one of the big reasons for Vietnam as well. So,
and like all empire building in Russia, you were only really powerful if the rest of the world was afraid of you or if you were taking more territory. They only had that sort of Roman ideology about we've got to get more stuff all the time. We've got to get more guns and more bombs and more rockets and put more guys in orbit, all of that shit. Because if you can't take territory, then you have to build monuments. You're going to build the Colossus of Rhodes. You're going to build the pyramids in Egypt. You're going to build something that history, posterity can see for 1,000 years. That's this
projection of power.
Yeah. Projection of, or at least projection of the image of power. Right. It's the same thing. If you're perceived as powerful, I don't think there's anybody. And there's a lot of, I got to say too, I read a lot of stuff out there about people saying, oh, Putin's over. Russians are pissed off. Da, 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 da. None of it's coming out of Russia. This is just people that feel like that's the way it should be. Our media's gotten very much down this well now of, well, I think this is what's going on. And then you get published and it gets picked up and suddenly that's the new story, the new I love the word narrative. Narrative is for novels, man. It's not for media. It's not for press. But they love it. We're going to create a narrative out of whole cloth, out of thin air, and then we're going to tell the whole world this is what's really going on over there.
Right. You see that a lot. Like, they're saying, oh, his fleet of airplanes that he uses are dilapidated and breaking down. And I think I just read recently an article, well, they're not even deploying their newest battle tanks. So there must be something wrong with them. And I'm like, no, they're getting rid of all their old shit. They're getting rid of the stuff from World War II or just after.
And meanwhile, you are revealing your tactics to them. How do they handle it when I roll 1 tank, 3 tanks, 7 tanks? How many support troops am I going to need to make this work? Can we agree that he's got a gigantic amount of material over there? Yeah, because he's been looking to do this for a real long time. And he's not depending on foreign much of anything. Some money from China, that's nice. But he's got the entire economy over there on a war footing. And the scariest part about this is we can't really look inside of it. You try and put some spies on the ground, these guys are the spy masters. The KGB, they're alive and well. He even calls them the KGB again because it just Directorate S and the rest of the crap that he's Section 31 and all the rest wasn't scary enough. We're just going to go back. What scares the shit out of people the most? The KGB. We'll go back to that. And they're really, really good at one thing, human intelligence, which means it's going to be really, really hard to get, quote, spies in there on the ground to do anything. And even if you do, you're probably getting fed a pure diet of bullshit. You're going to take back to your masters in the West exactly what he wants them to see, which for a long time now has been nothing. So we roll the clock back about 30 years. This guy was into cyber warfare before it was even coined a phrase. He was making sure that the whole country was firewalled, that he was controlling all the information going in and out. Somebody put an article out there the other day, what happened to this band or that band that was Russian and they were really good? Well, they're rotting in prison. Because music is a kind of free speech. Right. I'm going to write a song about how shitty it is in Russia right now. This is 10 years ago. They're gone.
Yeah, he's locked up political opponents, just gotten rid of political opponents. So
he lets them out so that he can kill them, so that the whole world will know, even if you're free, you're not really free from me. That last guy, and I can't even remember his name, he poisoned him once he was out. And I mean, Putin's favorite methods of killing people are ones that you can't really prove. I'm going to poison him. I'm going to hit him with polonium. I'm going to throw him off the roof of a building. And then you add it all up and you're like, literally only points to one thing. And that is that he is going to control that information utterly. So when people sit out there and say, well, this is the mood in Russia, well, you're adorable. Even Russians aren't going to tell you what the mood in Russia is because they like breathing and they can't get out of Russia. The mood in Russia is exactly what it was under the Soviet Union. It's true. I mean, you're going to be the person that speaks up. You're going to go to jail or be killed or thrown off a building. And so if you could get people over there and start talking to Russians on the street, I'm sure they're pissed off. So what? They can't do anything about it. We can't do anything for them. And this is where I kind of want to talk about today is the world has this idea now that if we want it badly enough, we can get it. And the thing that everybody can really agree that they don't want is World War III. So you go back to Neville Chamberlain. This is the internecine period between World War I and World War II. Chamberlain was exercising the will of the people when he's treating with Hitler. When he's telling everybody Adolf doesn't want war, he doesn't want to invade his neighbors. He's told me so. Except we now know that wasn't the case. This guy couldn't wait to go. And the thing that he needed was to make sure that Britain stayed the hell out of it. And he got that from Chamberlain. And then and as soon as he had it, man, he went wild. It's like, here comes Adolf. So Putin's doing the same crap right now. I mean, he's bombing his own palace. He's blowing up factories and saying it's munitions going off. False flag operations designed to do one thing. Why are you making me out to be the bad guy? I'm the victim here. NATO was going to make a move. NATO just doubled their spending. NATO made a move.
Yeah, I mean,
he's been telling people this is what they're going to do in the West. And part of it is he has precipitated it. There's no question. But I guarantee you that's not the message your average Russian's getting right now. The message they're getting is, look, I was right. Look, we were buying oil from Venezuela. Look what Trump did yesterday. They're moving
Germany's
against us.
rearming.
Germany's
Japan's
rearming.
Right? Like everybody's getting ready for a big kickoff. And it's coming.
And all you got to do is...
It's not new, right? It's something that I think we've talked about before. It's cyclical. And this is just another cycle.
Yeah, so let's talk about the cycle. The cycle's, depending on who you talk to, 80 to 100 years. I was like 90, round number in between. And the cycle, there's lots of things that people blame it on, but it's just memory. Okay, you've only got so much memory. A person's story only persists for so long after they're dead. And so you go back to the end of World War II. In 1945, it's all over. Yay, peace in our time. Here we go. Finally, we did it. There's no more war. We've declared an end to war everywhere. And then a generation goes by. And the kids that were born, the baby boomers, go out into the world and do their thing. In their 20s and 30s, they have kids. And those kids go out and do their thing. And the children of the baby boomers can't really get grandpa to talk about World War II anymore because he's in his 70s or he's dead. And so those stories start to fade. The horror of war, I mean, let's face it, if you're grandpa and there's your 5-year-old kid, he says, Grandpa, did you fight in the war? You're not going to tell him about that time you were on Guadalcanal killing Japanese with a bayonet and rats were eating corpses.
Right.
That victimizes the child. So the horror of war will eventually fade. The next thing that happens is those generations, the baby boom generation, starts to age. And as we all get older, we get wealthier and we have more power and more influence. What we don't have is a memory of war. And then the next generation comes along. And this is the one that's going to fight the next war. This is right around the 80 to 90 year mark. If there's a generation born, hitting 16 to 25 right now, somewhere in that range, we call fighting age males, right? These are the ones that are still young enough and dumb enough to think that they can win whatever fight they get in because they've never really seen a fight. You can't tell them about it because you didn't see a fight. Your grandpa can't tell them about it either because he was in college during Vietnam and too old when the next thing came around. But that's okay because he's in his 80s now and he's a politician. So they're calling the shots.
Do you think this is all kind of like psychological damage from the fall of the Soviet Union?
No.
Is this like still a beef from that, or where do you think that stems from when it comes to...
I'm going to tell you right now, there's always somebody out there that thinks that this is a winning equation. But here's what I really see going on for this one. Because there's always a pretext, right? There's always this was the wrong guy to get killed, or World War II, for example, happened because of the beating we put down on Germany between the period of the end of World War I and World War II. We wouldn't let them have anything. We were daily reminding every single citizen of Germany, man, you screwed up. And so you had a generation that grew up on cabbage and shame. We call them Nazis now. And World War II was their payback, man. They were pissed off. And we learned our lesson. When we go to World War II, we rebuilt Germany. We rebuilt Europe. We rebuilt Japan. The United States paid for that. You call us colonists and colonizers all you want. You're a dumb shit in college is what you are. And you didn't read the textbook. You read somebody's rewritten version of it where we were out. We wanted to conquer the world after World War II. It was ours for the taking. We had the bomb. We're going to make 10 more of those things and just threatened you with them. And you just started speaking English the day before yesterday. You'd been learning quick. We didn't do that. We wanted a free market economy. We wanted a free speech. We wanted to export what we have here to the rest of the world. That was really what we tried to do. But the enemy gets a vote. And just because you won the war doesn't mean they didn't go underground, doesn't mean they're not still out there, doesn't mean a guy like Vladimir Putin wasn't raised on a diet of shame. And the Soviet Union falls on his watch. Man, he was there when it went down. He was a grown man. And he wants to get it back. That's his primary reason. His impetus, because we've all got a little beefs in life. Doesn't mean we got to start whacking people, right? But the impetus for him to do this is Russia's falling apart. They have a lot of fighting age males. What they do not have is a lot of hope. They've got a shrinking population. They've got the highest alcoholism probably anywhere in the world. It's way above 50%. The vodka economy was a lovely thing in the Soviet Union. It's how they moved their money around. They didn't have enough money supply in Soviet Russia. So what they did is they would go once a week. They had about 25% of what they call M1 in economics, which is their money supply. And once a week, they would go around and sell vodka on Friday, which was payday, whatever oblast, whatever little region they were in. They'd pay everybody at noon. And then about 4 or 5 o'clock, the liquor store would open up. Everybody would take their paycheck and buy vodka with it. And they'd collect all that cash and move it around. And the next week, they were in another town doing the same thing. It was the vodka economy. You were basically just trading your paycheck for some booze to ease the suffering that is life. And it was life under that regime because they didn't really know how to do it. You didn't have innovation. You can't have innovation if there isn't some kind of reward behind it. If I don't see a problem and go, ooh, I know a good way to fix that, it's going to make everything better. You won't even look for the solution. And so they created a whole society that was just like, well, screw it. It's not going to change anything anyways. Even if I have a great idea, someone's just going to steal it from me. I won't be rewarded for it, or I'll just be told to shut up and get back in line. They didn't want to hear it. And basically, they screwed themselves. They put themselves out of business. That was the Cold War, right? But listen to the language that we use right there. Cold War. No war was being fought. It was weird. We couldn't think of a better phrase for it. So, and we do that a lot. We're going to declare war on drugs. Well, I got news for you. Drugs don't shoot back. People shoot them up. You need to fix the people, not the drug problem. You can right. Staunch the flow of drugs all you want. All you're going to do is increase the price, and you're going to increase the amount of people that go, oh my God, that's a lot of money, and get into the business. You will actually make it worse by trying to affect the flow of drugs. I hate to blow everybody's mind on that, but that's not how you win the war on drugs. You win the war on drugs through education.
Was that kind of like what just happened this morning though with like Venezuela though? Do
That
you
was
think? I
probably
mean,
his pretext for it. We're going to call it. We're going to say that it's drugs. This thing this morning was to hurt Putin in a big way. If he didn't mean to do that, then we're really screwed. I mean, I think you guys smarter than that. I know most people don't agree with me. I think Trump's a lot smarter than the media gives him credit for. Certainly. Otherwise, how's he kicking your ass at being president twice? It wasn't an accident. You helped him do it in between, but that's a whole other conversation. But it's a pretext. I think the drug thing is a pretext. Really, it is oil. Let's not bullshit ourselves. They have the largest reserves. It's very good oil that they've got over there too. According to Trump's greatest oil in the world. We definitely want that. And also, wars are fought with oil and money. And we've got a lot, but do we want to be using all of it for the next World War? They pretty much see what I see. This is coming. I can't make it stop. Europe's rearming. Germany's rearming. Germany reinstituted the draft, man. If nobody saw that,
I saw that.
That shit happened.
that's wild. We got countries bringing the draft back.
Right. Because they know damn well Gen Z is not strapping on. They're going to suit up unless you make them suit up. But then again, the first time you see a Russian tank on the streets of Germany, it's going to get a hell of a lot easier to recruit people. It's just going to be too late. Yeah. So what I see is I see Putin running around now for years, testing the water, testing out tactics, as Jared said, getting rid of his old junk, and fostering the idea that he's a pushover. He's going to be easy, and he's not. And he's running around doing false flag operations at a breakneck pace. And Europe and NATO are ready to step in. NATO doubled their investment. Hell, we couldn't get them to pay 2.5%. They went to 5%.
Yeah.
Voluntarily. Wow. Nobody slapped them and said, you have to do this. They went, hey, he's got a point over there. We need to spend more on arming. That attitude only shifted because Putin's in Ukraine. It looked like Vietnam.
You said, he's testing the waters, right? If he would have done a large scale invasion to Ukraine, then everybody would go, oh, no, you don't. And then come in. And I probably going slow, the slow burn is his route right now. Like you said, test the waters.
The problem with war is you can't see where it's going to go, right? I mean, we really have no idea once people acknowledge that it's kicked off, it kicked off a while ago. That's the gift. I agree. I was up last night till about 2 a.m. thinking about this, and I was like, yeah, this is like every war in history. Some guy gets assassinated in Austria, and the next thing you know, the world's at war. And really, why were they at war? It wasn't because Ferdinand took a bullet in the brain pan. It's because they wanted it. They've been working up to it. We got a bunch of new toys. Have you seen what these drones can do? Have you seen what these hypersonic missiles can do? Have you seen this freaking iron beam thing coming out of Israel? Man, we are full on Star Wars out there. And the problem is, I don't really get any traction out of this if we're not going theater wide or multi-theater conflict, global conflagration. Then I can really take this for a spin. I've got my little invention and it's going to make some money, but man, if only there was a big war, we could really show how this thing's going to stretch its legs and make a big difference.
So do you think Putin is more paranoid or more realistic than Western leaders today?
I think Vladimir Putin is probably the most paranoid guy in history. He probably makes Stalin and Beria, who were his mentors, look like Stalin was gone by then. But Beria, trained Khrushchev. Khrushchev was the guy that was training Putin's his folks. These guys are the most paranoid guys in history because think about you're ruling a country that is terrifyingly brutal and only respects brutality. So you know for damn sure, if you're Vladimir Putin, you know damn sure there are probably tens of thousands of people that want him dead. He knows that. And everything is built around fear. The guys that work for him are afraid of him. If you're not, you're stupid and you won't be around very long. So I want smart, scared people that would never, ever even think about replacing me. Because if they tried, if they made their move, they're going to kill me. Them and all their families are going to be gone too. The guy that kills Vladimir Putin is dooming his line of succession for all time. That's a team of dudes Putin's got standing aside someplace else, ready to go at a moment's notice in the event of his death. Whoever does it, whoever takes credit for it, whoever steps in, he's gone too.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of our very first episode here on Common X, doesn't it, Jared? Gen X versus Boomers and that foxhole leadership. What do you think?
Yeah, and I mean you can't overlook how Russia was treated after World War II, right? Like out of any other country, Russia lost the most people. I think it was like total deaths, civilian and military, is like almost 30 million people. That's more than any other country, honestly, probably combined,
Let me,
right? So that's
and
pretty
this,
freaking crazy. And then we just went, yeah, whatever.
okay, so check this out. So this is the stuff that doesn't really get talked about historically. So after that happens, World War II ends and Stalin's in power. Stalin is without question the most paranoid human being in the history of the world. Stalin's not very well educated. So Stalin's first deal is this thing that was it gutted Russia for all time. He basically rounded up all the intellectuals. He rounded up all of the royalty in the country and the entire officer corps in the military and had them all killed. It's called the Night of the Long Knives. He wiped out all of the intellectuals in Russia. And then he went on an unholy tear against anybody that said anything against him or ethnic groups that he didn't like, which was like Russian Jews and pretty much anybody that practiced any religion. Religion was dead because, Marx said something nasty about it. And Stalin went, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to get rid of all the religious people because I can't control their message. And so propaganda became state law over there. And murdering your own population became the way you kept them afraid. These are, like you said, they sacrificed millions during the war. And not just the civilians, their military lost. Like 4 million guys got forced into service. I was a farmer yesterday, and now I've got this crap machine gun. It was terrible what went on. But the cost of World War II for Russia was somewhere in the range, depending on historian, 70 to 100 million people before Stalin got done with his purges. I mean,
right.
You're famous for purging your own nation. What did you purge them of? Your intellectuals, mostly. Anybody that might have had a good idea or an idea that ran counter to your idea, got to go. As a matter of fact, take his family, his grandkids, people he does business with. Screw it. Take the whole town. My favorite example of this is he has an entire town, decides they're seditious, and he has the KGB and the GRU go in there with the army in the night. He put the entire town, about 3,000 people, on trains to Siberia. And then the next day, those same troops go to the next door, to the next town over. And they would get everybody outside on the street and line them up and count off 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Everybody that said 2, step forward. And they put them all on buses and trains and took them to the next town over and said, this is where you live from now on. Because these people said some shit about the boss. We never say his name. He's always the boss. They talk some shit about the boss and they're gone and you live here now. If you try to go back to that other town, both these towns will be gone and we'll go find 2 more towns and split them up. And that was it. You got whole families split down the middle, husbands, wives, mothers, daughters, the whole 9, split into 2 different towns. That sent the message to everybody. Stop saying bad shit about Stalin because bad things are going to happen. And Putin, to a large degree, has done the same thing. He likes that model. He likes that central authority. What I say goes. I've got the entire apparatus over here of the media to support that. And I know how to make it look like we're really the victim. I didn't want to do this, man. I tried hard not to, but NATO left me with no choice. And look what they did. They're spending twice as much and they're doing the draft over there. And I mean, I promise you the headlines in Russia he's our only hope. Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, ruling by fear, right? Like, again, like Ian was talking about in our first episode, that whole, command and conquer mentality, still alive and well. So,
right. The world is our enemy. I am your savior. And hey, I brought us through some tough times there after the end of the Cold War. They were starving to death, and he came along and was their big savior. He had Western money was pouring in there, and when he had enough of it, he threw us all out. When that wasn't enough, he took over his own industries. There's no industry in Russia that runs without his authorization and without kicking some money upstairs either. We talk about mob bosses, man. That guy's the ultimate, without question, the wealthiest person in the history of the world and the most powerful too. So when you're talking about, this is another thing that's really awesome about world wars, is you get a guy like Hitler, again, who's got an awesome amount of power in Germany that makes the decision-making process very simple. This is what we're going to do. And everybody says, okay, and they go do it. Whereas, every single government in the West has got a parliament, or they've got a parliamentary body, or they've got a king and queen, or they've got a democracy or a republic or whatever, but they've got a Congress, they've got a Senate, they've got a president, they've got a prime minister, and they all got to get on the same page to respond. Action is always faster than reaction. We're going to be the ones reacting to this. We think we're taking steps, and then it's going to force them to the negotiating table. I don't see him ever negotiating in good faith. I don't know how you believe somebody that's most famous contribution to everything he does is sooner or later it's a lie. And I don't think when this guy lies, it's unplanned. He's saying exactly what he's going to do. You're just got to believe the opposite of what he says. That's very simply the case.
So you think he's ideological or pragmatic?
Both. I think this was ideology for him, and it turned into pragmatism. This whole thing went wrong, right? And then you have this other reactive thing now, where when the whole thing went wrong is Russia's facing a cliff of people, of new Russians. Russians are not making more Russians because it sucks and it's too expensive. He underestimated how complicated a free market economy is. Then he did what basically Russians have done throughout history. I'll take it over. I'll be the new czar over here, and I'll tell everybody how to run it. There's certain things that'll work that way, and that's infrastructure stuff. And there's certain things that won't. When was the last time you heard of an awesome new Russian innovation after the Rubik's Cube? That guy wasn't even really Russian.
No, I mean, after their big space race and space program, stuff kind of went away. Like, I don't see a lot of innovation coming out of Russia for a really long time.
Right, because he basically re-Sovieted the economy over there. So there's this problem that nobody wants to have kids, and with nobody having kids, then there's not going to be any Russians. So he goes to Ukraine, and the first thing he starts doing is kidnapping kids.
Right.
That's the natural resource he's after.
That's a worldwide problem. Like China's doing that right now too, right? Putting that
the Uyghur,
300% tax on condoms or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it's anywhere from 13
children
to 300. But yeah, you got to start having more children. So China's one child policy for 40 years almost turned into nothing but boys.
Yeah,
because they just take the girls out, drown them in the newest body of water they could find, and so they've got a multi-generation problem in China, which is why they're making so much noise too. We got to grab some territory, but really, Belt and Road, right? And the whole world look at Belt and Road and went, man, this China's geniuses are going over there investing in these third world countries that have crap economies, and let's build them some roads. Let's get them strapped up and get their industries off the ground. China was there for your women. We'll send a bunch of poor Chinese people over there, nothing but dudes. We don't have any women we can afford to send. We got plenty of fighting age males, and these guys are young and they're horny and they want wives, and it backfired huge because they don't want to go back to China with that. They're not really making any money anyways. They're practically working for slave labor in another country, and they're ethnic Chinese. But now I've got Congolese wife, a Nigerian wife, whatever. They're speaking Congolese or Nigerian or whatever. There's no taking them home. The Chinese will piss on them from the high rises.
Right.
You're going to be a second
back into China.
Right. So it was, I guess it was a good idea, but these are also countries that when the bill comes due, they're going to show you the signal finger and move on. They don't have the money to pay it back.
That's what I was going to say, right? Like China invested all this money into their infrastructure and building their thing. So you're kind of indebted to China. So like if we need something, well, you still owe us. But like you said, at the end of the day, what's China going to do about it actually to collect on that?
Yeah, China's
not going to invade anybody.
China's big problem is that one right there. Projection of force is a real problem for them. It's pretty easy to go, I got a 4 million man army over here. That's because they're at home in bed right now. You're not barracking them in a foreign country that you flew or drove or sailed them over to. They're at home. And that army is only really going to be doing awesome stuff if somebody else invades you. And the only reason somebody else is going to invade you is because you invaded, which historically is bad for China. China is not awesome at fighting in their own territory. They get invaded. They pretty much get crushed. And that's going to piss people
showed that
off.
Quite a few times.
Repeatedly, yeah. Invading Japan was usually the biggest mistake you could make as a Chinaman.
Right.
So has that changed? You bet. Do they have a bunch more technology, a bunch more cool toys? Absolutely. Do I think they've got the ability to take over jack shit? Nope. I don't see it. Maybe you can get Taiwan. I don't know what you think you get out of it. You're going to get scorched earth. They're going to fight you for it, and you're not going to get any. All you're really getting is Taiwanese people, whatever's left, whatever didn't pick up a gun and try to fight you.
Right, which don't want to go back to China anyway. So,
but again, events that are accelerating World War III, $11 billion HIMARS package for Taiwan. China is flipping out about that, and rightly so. They'd have to cross the Taiwan Strait somehow, and 40,000 HIMARS rockets will put a real dent in your ass trying to do that. I don't care how many boats you bring, it's just more targets to shoot. Those things are freaking awesome. They're 30-year-old technology. It's as perfect as we can make it. There's not any way to interrupt it. You flood the zone with your boats. I flood the zone with my HIMARS. Some of your boats get through. Okay. Most of them don't.
How does
Yeah.
how does Russia define strength compared to the U.S. then? I mean, they don't see the world the same, right?
Yeah, so I mean, you can look at different indicators, right? You can look at gross national product or how many tanks can we field. But Russia uses another indicator that you probably heard of the happiness index, right?
Hmm.
Every
I
year there's a
haven't. Oh,
every year there's a poll. They go around this magazine goes around and they poll all these countries. And they go talk to the citizens. They get on the street, ask them how happy they are. How happy are you about your job prospects, your upward mobility, your housing situation, education for your kids, healthcare in the country? They get ratings
Leadership.
on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Northern Europe rocks the happiness index. Also, Nepal, before the Chinese were stealing all their shit, they were the happiest place on earth. Not anymore. When you get
Yeah, I think
occupied by
Finland
China.
and Norway are like the leaders right now or
Right.
something.
And they've got
Yeah.
sovereign wealth funds, and when they pump oil out of the ground, it's the country's oil, and they keep the money. And they figured out a few things that were sort of, the apotheosis of greed. We're going to look out for the country. They're the best funded healthcare and the best healthcare in Europe, and that'll make people happy when they feel like they're taken care of and they can express themselves and their kids can grow up. And they also have a thing, it's not Finland, it's either Sweden or Denmark, might be both. Ostentatious shows of wealth are pretty much frowned on. Yeah, okay, you're the king. I better not see you in a Maserati with a $40,000 watch, or you will be ostracized for that. And
Right. How many billionaires are in those countries?
Right.
And
they've got some, but let me tell you what, you're running around doing billionaire shit, buying $300 million yachts. You're not going to be welcome at home for very long. It's like, yeah, you're wealthy, good for you, but what are you doing for everybody else? What are you doing with that money that's benefiting your country? And it's so ingrained in them that there's almost no examples of somebody that's like, yeah, I won the lotto, I got rock star money. You probably live in someplace else. You probably don't belong in this country anymore. And that's a pretty hard concept for people to get. So Russia doesn't have a happiness index. Let me tell you, they do not give a shit if their people are happy. They get two indices over there, and they're both called the same thing, fear index. The one that matters isn't how afraid the population is of its government. They're pretty good at maintaining that for a long time now. The one that matters is how afraid is the rest of the world of us? Because that's the one that I can actually sell to Russian people. Yeah, I know you're hurting, but they're terrified out there. They're shitting in our pants that I'm going to take the leash off and unload the whole arsenal on Europe. They don't have any other enemies over there. They're not going to fight China. They're doing business with China because Russia and China have the same problem. We don't have enough women. We don't have enough kids. Nobody's making enough babies over here. And you can't just have cities collapsing because industries collapse behind them. Collapse is the word that they fear. Right now, they look scary. Right now, they're genuinely scary. No question in my mind. What they're doing is precipitating a world war because they've got the citizenry now. Today, they have the people to make a big difference. Will they have that 10 years from now? No. You will never be stronger than today.
What do you think his drivers are for World War III? Or do you think he just wants to completely control Europe? Or he just wants to go back and take the USSR states and countries
I think
to
he
make
wants.
a USSR?
I think he wants to go on tour and take a big chunk of Europe. There's lots of, like the Baltic states, Poland. There's lots of people that pulled away from the Warsaw Pact early.
Mm-hmm.
I think he wants all that and as much more as he can get. I think what his real end game is Vladimir Putin wants to stamp his name on history, right up there with Stalin, right up there with Hitler. I want to make sure that for 1,000 years, the world remembers the greatness of me and the thing that I built. His monument will be, how big is Russia? How big a deal are we on the day that I die? I think that's his end game, honestly. I don't see any pause in him, negotiation in him. This isn't about, and right now, it went from ideology to just plain survival. If we don't do this now, there ain't going to be a Russia to talk about. We'll be a failed state and all the other republics will break away. Innovation will take hold. Capitalism will really take hold. Things will start to get better. None of it will be my idea.
Right.
Oh
so
my
do you
God.
think he's crazy enough to eventually push the button? The big
How
button?
bad is he losing is the question there. There's only one question. He's getting his ass kicked all the way around. This is absolutely the guy that'll turn some loose. This is a guy that once bragged in a paper a long time ago that one of the greatest innovations the Soviet Union ever made was miniaturizing a nuke small enough to fit it onto the warhead of artillery. They had field artillery that would shoot a 1 kiloton nuclear bomb. And again, just for your listeners out there that don't know, Nukes, while bad, are not that radioactive. They're not going to poison the
Right.
place for 50,000 years. They're just going to put a giant amount of dust in the atmosphere, and that's the bad part when you use too many of them. But a small
Right. That high
chemical,
level of radiation decays pretty quick.
right? And it's not like World War II bombs that were atomic and the decay lasted, and you had birth defects and you had gamma and X-ray out the ass. And we fixed all that with plutonium and tritium. So they're devastatingly effective, and you can basically move in and start building in about 3 weeks. The problem isn't that. The problem is, what is the world's appetite for response to a nuclear event? You can't go proportional because everybody knows where that's going to go. So is this guy strategically going to cook off a 50 or 100 kiloton device, something small enough to get the job done, but big enough to let you know, I'm willing to go loud here. I'm willing to go as far as I need to. So I don't have an answer to that. I think that anybody in the world, he's the most likely to do it. If he's losing, it's not going his way. I don't see that happening. I see him being the chess grandmaster, and the whole thing is going his way. They're rearming in Europe. Point to Putin. NATO doubled its expenditure. Check to Putin. They've reinstituted Putin. They invaded Venezuela. They're going to cut off some of his oil. It's going to piss him off, and it's going to be another pretext for him to ratchet up the heat and go loud. But every day that goes by, every single day that goes by, their position does not strengthen. It weakens. They're getting further and further from being able to do something. So now's the time. They've got a very small window left to them. And then it's just going to be not population decline, but population collapse in both countries, in China and in Russia. And so they're hot right now. And everybody sees it. And everybody's wrong-headed reaction isn't to ask, how can we help you? Because we're not going to do that, man. We're not going to start sending you women.
Right.
This is how it happens every 90 years or so. We forget how terrible war is. A bunch of really old guys are in there making decisions. The whole world's talking about how old the politicians are and how they won't let go of power. Next step, World War. It's happened again and again and again throughout history. We're due. We got a bunch of people that forgot how terrible it is. You got a bunch of guys that wonder about the global war on terror. God bless them. Those are limited engagements. It was not real theater wide, and I'm sure I'm pissing off a lot of veterans right now. And I get that you had a terrible time over there because it wouldn't let you do what you knew how to do. And I think if you served in the military, we've all been there. Yeah, but he's just right. I just go get him. No, you can't do that because some politician fucking says so.
Right. We need approval. And that needs to be approved by another board. And that needs to be approved by a committee. And that needs to be approved by Congress.
But
meanwhile,
that's a long
Osama
way
and all those guys got away. When
that's a long way
away
from 10,000 guys are enveloped by the enemy. And now what do? And we've been at this for years. And it's just not, it's just everything's getting worse everywhere. That's what we're headed for. This is going to be everywhere all at once. The number of those little, tiny border skirmish battles that are running around the world right now is gigantic. And these are people settling, in some cases, 3,000-4,000-year-old scores. It's not going to stop. And a world war is just going to give them permission to go, well, none of your allies are coming. They're busy in Europe right now. Here we go. That's how you get that multi-theater thing. That's how it's a world at war. And if, I like one side's chances better than the other, it's who does America back? And whoever America backs, the other side gets backed by Russia and China. That's a world war. It's the ultimate proxy war, right? So,
yeah. Well, the war in Ukraine has become morally and emotionally charged. I mean, understandably. Do you think Putin miscalculated it all?
Nope.
With everything leading up to this?
Nope. There's no morals at work here. We're at war. Okay. So there's von Clausewitz said war is the ultimate expression of politics. What he meant by that is when the political machinations fail, people start shooting. And they keep shooting until one side says, enough, uncle. And then you go back to politics at the end of the war. Putin's not going to get what he wants politically. He can't achieve that aim. People are not going to suddenly start moving to Russia so life can suck for them too. That's a terrible sales pitch. What he's left with after that, when politics fails, war becomes your outlet. So is it going badly? Is the whole world condemning him morally? Yeah. Unfortunately for us all, you're talking to a guy that I don't understand morals. I've seen the ugly face of what people do to each other at the point of a spear, and there's no morality in it. There is no morality in war. There's no mercy in it. I'm going to impose my will on you. I'm going to kill your side until enough of you have died that you get the point that I'm not going to stop and you finally surrender. That's war. Then we'll go back to politics. and somebody much older and better looking with a better suit than me will come in and talk to your guys that are older and better looking with better suits. But is it going badly for him? I mean, maybe image wise in the rest of the world, but do you think he gives a shit what the rest of the world thinks? As long as they fear him, far better than respect. Far more valuable as a currency. And the only way he's going to get what he wants is to grab territory and the people that are standing on it. That's the resource he wants. He wants people. He's got money. He's got oil. He's got technology. The guy's got a $1.4 billion house in the Black Sea. Does he need any of that shit? Is that what he needs? No. Russia needs kids. They need hope. Wars are amazing, giving a desperate population something to rally around and hope for.
So do you think the thing with Venezuela, do you think this is going to be like the eventual match that lights this fuse? Like from a strategic perspective and not political, what message does a regime change in Venezuela send globally?
Yeah, well,
Putin.
Venezuela is a little bit interesting for a couple of reasons. One of which is Venezuela's wanted regime change for a while. And Nicolas Maduro was the guy that was making sure it didn't happen. Right? Yeah. I don't think we're going to get a bunch of blowback from Venezuelans about getting rid of this guy. He's a turd. International criminal courts condemned him. He's been convicted a bunch of different places. He's going to get convicted some more up here. I'm not a fan. And especially when your country goes, Jesus, enough of the socialism shit already. It's not working. Can we please try something else? And you go, no. And no need to explain myself because, look, I've got this giant sash on because it looks like I just won a beauty contest. I mean, you ever notice how those guys too just wear the uniforms that the epaulets are out till Tuesday and they've just got a million medals and shit on there? It's like you never served a day in your life, pal. You've just been collecting titles your whole life. And then Maduro kind of reminds me of that. He's kind of a cartoon character.
Right. When they were showing that this morning on like Trump's speech, right? I'm like, how funny would it be if Trump, how funny would it be if Trump dressed up that way? And how much would people lose their shit if Trump dressed up that way, right? As a military leader.
First of all, Trump's tie has been compared to that on multiple occasions. But the guy's 6'3" and he's overweight and wears a big tie to kind of take your eye off. I'm sure somebody in a suit shop in New York City had suggested it to him. But yeah, if he suddenly decided to start wearing a sash, I'm hopeful that there's still enough people with spine around him to go, that's the worst idea you've ever had.
Right. Don't do that.
You're going to look like what they're accusing you of being now. So we hope that there's some people that can do that. Something you said to me a couple of weeks ago about people in the military not getting what they need or taking orders from above. And I did some homework on that. And I was appalled at congressional steering committees issuing edicts to soldiers in Afghanistan, Marines, etc., that they could no longer patrol at night. We're not doing any more night missions. They don't like it over there, and no more dogs either because dogs are filthy and it's bad in their culture. You know what it reminded me of was stop and frisk, and I had a conversation. With my cousins and my relatives are all Catholics, and they were very much against this. And one of my cousins said, well, the problem with demographics is that they work. He said, it turns out if there's a drive-by in a black part of the city and I go looking for the bad guy out in the suburbs where it's mostly white people, the chances are exactly zero that I'm going to find who I'm looking for. But if I start stopping and frisking guys looking for a gun a block from where it happened, two things are going to happen. I'm going to find a bunch of guns, which all Americans these days will agree is a pretty good thing if they're living in a city. Oh yeah, gun's bad. You're dumb. Gun's as bad as the guy carrying it, period. Or as good as the guy carrying it, right? And then the other thing was you're probably going to find your guy because you were looking at a place where you're likely to find him. What that whole deal did, and I'm sorry, the BLM thing too, is it said we're not guilty because we're black, and I agree. You're not guilty because you're black. But when we find the guilty party, turns out he's not white. And that sucks. And we have failed as a society to help these communities to move out of that when it's that easy to look just based on where they live or what color they are. Societally, we failed them, and we can't roll back the clock and go, now I'm going to give you a month out of the year to be awesome. And that somehow is going to fix it. That's virtue signaling too. That's bullshit. And I know we've done nothing to fix those communities because they're still out there shooting the shit out of each other every night, mostly over drugs.
Yeah. So do you see, what do you think China's reaction is going to be to this? Because they were the number one buyer of Venezuelan oil. I think we were second with,
Right.
I think, Chevron, but they were buying a large portion of oil from Venezuela. Do you think this move and a regime change is going to be like, all right, we're not going to sell oil to China anymore?
So here's what I
How's that
think.
going to work?
Oh, we'll sell oil to China. We will sell oil to whoever can buy it. Something else too that came up for me was we were talking today is that arms. They talk about arms dealers and rearmament. And so if America doesn't know this, you need to know that the United States of America is far and away the largest armorer of the world. The arsenal of democracy is the arsenal of the world. We're the biggest arms dealer in history. We're awesome. And we sold $11 billion worth of rockets to Taiwan that's probably going to precipitate the invasion of Taiwan by China. The Venezuela thing, I get why he's doing it, because we're headed down this road to World War III, and it'd be really nice to have the world's largest oil reserves, at least tangentially, under our control. And the people they're going to be selling to next will be us. Cheap, too, because oil fuels economies like crack fuels crackheads. I mean, it's going to go off over here. Let's be very clear. Trump's not having a good time economically. It's not really going his way. It's improving incrementally, but he needs a big win. And I saw him get it this morning, because when Venezuela starts selling us their oil, it's not going to be at $5 a gallon. And that will supercharge the economy. It will also almost certainly piss Russia and China off so bad they can't even talk right now. But hey, good news. They both wanted to go to war, and we just gave them a giant reason to do it. Yeah. That is what I see. Like I was saying to you right before we started the podcast this morning, I wish we'd done this yesterday. I would have looked like such a super genius, because this is the kind of shit I'm predicting. They keep doing it. And no matter what you do it, you don't do it. When people are hell-bent on having a war, everything you do is a reason for me to retaliate, to respond, to escalate. No one's de-escalating after this. No one. And it wasn't like this was the final straw or some shit. I actually think selling all those rockets to Taiwan was both brilliant and incendiary. The Taiwanese love it. A whole bunch of other people in the world love it. China hates it. China has put themselves in a situation where they basically have to invade Taiwan now. You keep talking, and now you're on a clock. You got until that stuff gets there, or you will fail when you try to invade Taiwan. It will be a big shit show. You'll find out, oh man, there was a couple of submarines hanging out there in the straits that we couldn't identify either, and they just cooked off a few thousand tomahawks at us because you invaded Taiwan. They've been hoping and praying and this and that, and politically somehow Taiwan would start leading their way, and the harder they push, the more Taiwan pulls away. So I think that everywhere I look, it is right to conflagrate, to get worse, to pull in more countries and more money. But Ukraine was our fault, man. He started doing this probatory warfare into Ukraine, and what do? We poured money into that.
Right.
If this was a crime happening and war is murder, which every liberal on earth will tell you war is murder, then we sent money to the Ukraine. We are the accomplice to the murder. World War III is being fought. It just hasn't conflagrated into the whole deal yet. It's getting there. It's getting there in a hurry.
Isaac, what do you think Americans most misunderstand about Russia?
That they want peace, that they want to be America, that they want, I mean, Russians are used to privation. If I made you live for a week like they have to live in Russia, as an American, you'd be so pissed off. You'd rather be dead than have to live one more week like that. They've been doing it for like a century and a half. That's just life. Some days you can get bread and some days you can get toilet paper, but not usually both in the same day. And look at COVID and how bad we lost our minds. We couldn't buy enough butt wipe at Costco. Oh, yeah. My God, the world stopped turning.
Yeah, people in ape shit.
Right. They don't do that in Russia. They make do, they adapt. They're tough. That's why you lose when you invade Russia. That's why Putin, what he really, really, really dreams about at night is that somebody is going to start shooting at him across his border. Not just Ukraine, because we can all agree Ukraine's got a right to do that. But he's been messing with Poland. He's been messing with the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, flying too close to their airspace, cutting off the corner of Poland's airspace to get to the Ukraine faster. Sooner or later, one of them is going to get an itchy trigger finger and shoot down one of his planes, and it's going to be on. He's ready. He's waiting. He's prepared.
What do you think? What do you think Americans should realistically expect in the next decade?
I want to know how you put the fuse out on this thing, because we talk about lighting the fuse. Man, the fuse is lit. The fire is burning. The fire is rising, and it will eventually go wild. What can we expect in the next decade? That the current generation, again, that's about 16 to 25, they're going to go fight a foreign war, a big one this time. Not a limited conflict, not some crap that we initiated by letting someone attack us. Pearl Harbor, 9/11. No, this is going to be about attacking Americans on American soil. This is going to be about us going back to that Vietnam model. Are we going to let these guys march their armies across the world and knock off all of our allies, and then it'll be too late to stop anything? We don't have a Monroe Doctrine this time. We don't have a populace that goes, we'll avoid war at any cost. No one really remembers. And frankly, we got a whole lot of special forces guys that, given a choice, they probably just go back.
Right.
Because they can do something about it, and they know that. They'd rather do that at 40 than send their kid at 20 unprepared. That's what war does. War forces you to make horrible decisions. How much of this generation would we like to sacrifice to win? These will be questions Americans are not currently facing, but they will be facing very shortly, because nobody is backing down, man. Nobody's backing down. You know who wants peace in Ukraine? United States and Ukraine. That's it. That's the totality of the list, man. Maybe a couple buffer countries that figure if Ukraine falls, they're next, but they really don't give a shit about Ukraine or Russia.
What worries you most about the future?
It's just the past all over again. That's my point of this whole deal. Is we've done this again and again and again, and there's some people out there. I've seen some videos on YouTube too, where people are talking about, if we could just make it through the next 5 to 10 years, we won't have to face this anymore. Well, if history's taught us anything, you're going to face it, and it's now. That's what scares me the most about the next 10 years is what's that going to look like for us? Because we don't have an answer to these questions. I don't have an answer to this. I promise you, if we knocked off Vladimir Putin today, it could probably be worse. I'm sure there's an assessment of that somewhere in our military. I promise you, we can get the guy. Even as hard as he is to get, there's nobody that can't be got. Okay, that's just a freaking fact. But is it going to make things worse? Yes, they love him in Russia, and you kill him, you martyr him. I promise you, it makes it worse. We've been waiting around hoping this dude's just going to die. Well, he ain't going to die, and he isn't going away either. Some problems just do not solve themselves. So what my fear is we're going to continue to arm. We're going to continue to escalate on both sides of this thing until all it's going to take is pop. And the news cycle is what frightens me the most, because we all know, man, if it bleeds, it leads. And now there's so much stuff bleeding all at once, it's hard to keep track of. And that's usually when things go completely sideways.
Right. Do you think, so America, I think, is more divided than it's ever been for quite a while. Do you think that, if this happens over in Europe and Russia, I don't see Americans going, yeah, let's go kick their ass. I see maybe half of them, maybe not even that many.
Not even that.
But so Congress has to vote for us to go to war. Do you see that actually happening?
Did they vote for us to go to war in Venezuela last night?
No,
yeah, I'm not finding any reports on that.
Nor will you.
So
here's the deal about limited engagements, right? Because this I did. Yeah. I didn't fight a war, but I did do some limited engagements. And the thing about limited engagements is for them to work, for my inferior firepower and superior tactics to prevail, you can't know I'm coming. And if I go ask Congress, my God, you can't even walk through the walls of Congress without 20 reporters sticking a microphone in your face. Are you here to ask for permission to invade Venezuela? Well, Venezuela's listening. Maduro's listening. You're tipping them off.
A good example again is World War II. FDR, Churchill was talking to FDR constantly, you guys need to get involved. Hitler's coming, he's going to destroy you. I would say begging's
not too strong a word.
Right. And so we wouldn't go because Congress didn't want to vote to go to war. So then when Japan entered and, we learned that they were coming to Pearl Harbor, and we just kind of let that happen. And, people can agree or disagree, but the documents have been released. You can actually see that we broke their code and knew they were coming. That's why a bunch of our carrier groups were not in Pearl Harbor at the time, yada, yada, yada. But that got us, we were invaded. We were intact. We need to go to war.
Correct.
And I don't see, unless something like that happens in the U.S. again.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So first of all, I'm going to back up just for a quick second. FDR wanted to go to war.
Oh, he did, definitely.
Yeah,
but Congress did not.
The president controls the security apparatus. So when news came to him that the Japanese were coming, he basically sent a cable over to Churchill and said, relax, we got your back.
Right.
But 3 days before this all went down, and then it happened, Churchill went, ruin it. So,
Right.
So everybody knows the story. I agree with you. Now, the newspapers have been released and all the secret cables have been released, and the whole world knows that story. So if you're China or Russia, do you invade us?
No.
Right. If
That
you're,
doesn't go well
I
for
love
you.
those headlines too. That like
Right.
China can now reach Guam.
Right.
Please blow up Guam. Even the Guamanians will be pissed off, and if those guys are monsters, they'll fight with you. Blow up Guam. Apologies to Guamanians. It's a beautiful place. I've been there.
Like you said, I don't see Russia trying to invade us, but I do see, I don't know, a mini nuke or something getting smuggled into the U.S. and
The only way that would work is this whole. So it goes back into the whole Civil War thing right now. America is very polarized. Polarization is really interesting because it turns out a little electrical current and you can reverse the polarization. And the way that you do that is a mini nuke from someplace else, or you invade Guam. Suddenly, all that American polarization is just going to turn into American spirit and ingenuity, and we all got to get on the same page because nobody really wants America to go away. We would just like America to be more my idea of what America is, which is nice. And it gives us something to bitch about, but it's a first world problem. We get it so good over here. We're so far down the equality pipeline that we're just picking ridiculous things and going, it's got to be all about this right now. Well, I'm tired of you. I'm exhausted from you. Otherwise, Trump's not in office. If that wasn't true. Right. He's a footnote to history, but it was so true. And he was running around saying that people are exhausted. They rehired him. They rehired a guy that when he got out of office, all they did for 4 years was sue him. And make up shit to do it in most cases, too, which has been proven out. They don't like that either. Well, it's because he appointed all these people in the courts. Yeah, here's my question. How come your guy didn't do it when he was in office? You let Trump faced more federal judge vacancies than any president in history, except that he didn't. Every president in history faced all those vacancies and just went, I don't have time for that. Well, he made time for it. He made time for it. That's part of how you change a landscape is you make time for the things that need to be done. You weed your garden. You do those if you want a great looking garden, you're going to be out there every other day pulling weeds, man. It's just that simple. It's not easy, but it has to be done. And they don't want to do it because they're having a good time. They're golfing, they're screwing around, doing whatever. They don't want, I got hired. Hey, whether I do this job or not, I get paid. I get a presidential library at the end of the thing. That's really probably not that important. It was vitally important. And he proved that out. So
do you see, what kicks this off full scale and what do you see as a time frame? Like 12 months, 2 years, 3 years?
I think if this is the World War I, World War II model, I think Archduke Ferdinand is dead already. I think that'll be for historians to decide what was the thing that kicked it off. Mm-hmm. And to Ian's question, what's scariest to me is that everybody's waiting around for the thing to start. And the horse race started, and you're in the wrong location. It was actually not at Bagley Downs or wherever the hell it was supposed to be. Over a racetrack was supposed to be at. It was over this other racetrack, and you didn't notice that it was already going on. And no matter how fast we run, the horse race is already underway. They've already the table has been set for a long time. Like I said, our fascination with all these new little war toys is what presages a big conflict, and the big conflicts are growing. My God, man, we invaded Venezuela last night and kidnapped their president and first lady. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been done, but it damn sure shouldn't have been done this week with all the other shit that's going on. I got to say, and I understand that there were probably valid reasons for doing it. Is this good timing? No. Is this de-escalation? Quite the contrary. No. There were only two primary purchasers of Venezuelan oil, Russia and China. And yeah, I'm sure we bought some too, but Jesus. I mean, it's just, you look at it.
Chevron has a pretty big footprint in Venezuela. But.
Yeah, well, they're pretty pissed off. I'm out of shit that Venezuela, just help themselves to. So I don't see a big event happening that's going to presage World War III. I think it's already going on. What I don't see is anybody trying to stop it. They're all just getting ready for the inevitability of it.
Oh yeah, everybody's just really building up more arms.
Right. So is that you going, I know how to stop this. We'll get a bigger standing army. That's not how you stop it. That's how you ensure it happens. Historically, it's always been the case. It's the old Marine Corps adage. They got guns and we got guns. And unfortunately, I got Marines on my guns. Sooner or later, one of them is going to get itchy and pull a trigger, and it's on. So what's going to, what's going to be the thing? There's 1,000 things out there right now ready to drop. or expand, nobody's talking about fixing. And again, Zelensky and Trump saying, hey, we're 90% of the way there. Yeah, the problem is I don't think Vladimir Putin likes 10% of the shit you're saying. So you're not anywhere, really. You two have agreed that you can. Is Putin going with any of that? I don't think so. And the reason why is because he does not want peace in the Ukraine. That's not his end game. This time it wasn't a little bit of a territory grab. This time it's like, yeah, we're freaking up against it. And I've tested this guy Trump now, and he isn't really going to let his rockets off the rails like he threatened to do in his first. We benefited from him being an unknown quantity the first time. Putin's had some time to figure him out now and knows that the guy has a huge mouth and uses very little stick. And in the 21st century, that's been pretty effective so far. The threat of the big stick, but not the actual use of it. The use of the big stick was everybody freaking out about tariffs, and our economy didn't collapse behind tariffs. Everybody else was already doing tariffs to us. This is a new idea, or relatively speaking, a new idea for Americans. But it's like the war thing again. We used to do tariffs. That's how we became one of the most powerful, richest countries in the world. And then some economists, after the collapse of 1929, decided tariffs were a bad idea. We got away from them for a while. But all the people that lived in that time are dead. So we all forgot about tariffs. When Trump said tariffs, oh my God, we've never done that. Yeah, the hell we haven't.
All right, man. Before we close this out, bros, because we got, we're going to get together and watch the Hawks game, of course.
Right on.
What gives you hope, if anything, concerning global relations?
What gives me hope is that America thinks that it won't fight another war, that it won't get together and get on the same page. And I talk about historical truisms. This country will pull together in a fight like nobody's business, and overnight too. What gives me hope is that we will continue to be the beacon for democracy going far into the 21st and hopefully 22nd century. We're 250 years into that fight right now, but eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, and we need to stay vigilant. We need to stay on top of this. For right now, it's not happening here. The Venezuela thing actually brings it right into our theater. Now they have a pretext to come here if they decide they want to. There is a narrative on their side that is, we don't have a choice. Look what they're doing. Now America's expanding its footprint. We're on foreign soil today. I do believe that this idea that America is going to have a civil war is, if I can't make my point with words on the differences that Americans have with each other right now, I certainly can't make them with guns. It's not gonna change anybody's opinion about anything if I start shooting the guys I disagree with. So we're really pissed off, but we're mostly doing it from a comfortable couch with an 85-inch TV and a bridge full of beer, right? That's a pretty easy place to shoot your mouth off from. When I take away your job, your food, I impoverish your family, people with guns are chasing you all the time, that's a civil war. You're not safe in your own home. Nobody wants that here. Nobody has the will to make that happen, thank God. However, we get involved in World War III, yeah, you'll see Americans pull together big time. That does give me hope. I see lots of countries where that won't be the case. They will be arguing in France about the best way to do this when they are surrounded. And use the old adage, put up one hand if you love France, put up two hands if you are French. It's just, they're going to do it again, man. I mean, that's who they are, who we are. We pull together, pull up our shorts, do what's got to be done, and lead the way. And I think that we will. I think it will lead the way on this. I think right now, unfortunately, Putin's calling the shots. He's getting exactly what he wants, because we misunderstand fundamentally what he wants. You cannot beat a guy if you don't know what he wants. Okay, that was Putin's problem with Trump in the first term, and now he's figured out pretty clearly Trump really doesn't want war. He'll make the moves he needs to prepare for it, but that's just unfortunately aiding everybody else's in the world's opinion of Trump wants war. Trump is really Putin. How many times have you heard him say that? Trump's really Putin. He's not. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been watching both these guys most of my adult life. They're not remotely the same guy. Trump is not Putin. If he was, then this Venezuela thing would be the scariest shit that's ever happened in history. But he didn't go large. We didn't land a division of Marines there last night. It was a discreet intervention. We kidnapped 2 people. I'm very familiar with this kind of warfare, and it can be very effective, especially because we didn't slaughter a whole bunch of people. And the Venezuelan newspapers, boy, you can read some stuff. Open up the Drudge Report right now, because we're occupying every major city over there. And I mean, it's just a complete hysteria going on. And I'm sure it's nothing of the sort, because it doesn't aid us in any way. It does not benefit us. Getting rid of Maduro benefits us, because the Venezuelan people will very quickly express their will on this, and we can pull back. which he's already said we're going to do. And I believe him, because so far when the guy says he's going to do something, when at all possible, he does.
That's a good closing thought, man. All right. Well, thanks, Isaac.
Always a
one thing we
pleasure.
try to do, one thing we try to do on Common X is slow conversations down enough to let complexity breathe. Power isn't cartoonish. History isn't clean. And understanding people we disagree with is often uncomfortable but necessary. So thanks, brother, for coming back.
My pleasure.
You got any closing thoughts there, Jared?
No, I other than this is unavoidable. I think,
Yeah, and I really,
it's coming, and I think people need to be prepared for that, because I don't see Putin backing down. I don't see China backing down. So I think America needs to get ready for what's coming.
Yeah, it is terrifying when you put it in those terms. And I went and quote, when I went to war. I didn't go to war. I went and fought. But you do not want to see that. I've seen civil war in Africa. Holy crap, man. I mean, I had some PTSD after that one, let me tell you. You don't want that in your house. You definitely don't want a giant, large-scale war to happen, because everybody loses. And right now, unfortunately, we have two of the largest countries, most powerful arsenals in the world going, well, the only way we lose is if we don't do this. And I don't know how you talk them out of that point of view, because it's just all, the table's set, man. The table is set. So, yeah, prayer's good.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian. Don't forget to go to commonxpodcast.com, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
buddy.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button, or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. And that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week, and hopefully from, content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.